Can we have a conversation? Can I talk to you? I need a little information.
With Pastor Battle,
Hey.
it is a pleasure having you today, and thank you so much for being here.
You know I got you, man.
Yeah. Talk
Good.
about leadership and life.
Mm-hmm.
And before we start off, man,
Yeah.
first of all, thank you for your friendship and your leadership, over the years, and be my pastor. As you've always said, every pastor needs a pastor.
Amen.
And
Amen.
you're my pastor, father in the ministry. So I'll call you
Yeah.
Pops.
I don't know whether to be happy about that or not. Yeah. That's my pleasure, though.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about leadership.
Yeah.
So how would you define leadership, and then how would you speak to the tension or the mindset that sometimes we have? Well, I'm not a leader. Or when we think of a leader, we think of someone else. Or somebody else can do it. I'm not going to lead it. I'm willing to follow, but I'm not going to start it. So how would you define leadership, and why is it important you think that we see ourselves as leaders?
Well, first of all, the way I define leadership is leadership is the ability to move things, or move people, move agendas. It impacts the way people think. It impacts behavior. It impacts choices and decisions. And so it is about what John Maxwell calls it, at the end of the day, he says it's influence. And I think it's the ability to get things moving, get things going in a direction. And it requires, it's done, and the way it's done is through example and modeling. You can model it. It's done through teaching and vision casting, and it's done by holding somebody accountable. So a leader can't just say, here's the way we're going. A leader has to say, have you been tracking? Here are the things we want you to get done. The leader comes back and says, are you doing it too? So there's a level of accountability. And the reason why it's important that people not see just others as leader, but say, I'm a leader, is because nothing moves without leadership.
Wow.
We can't get anything done. We can't get any change to happen. We can't get behaviors to change. We can't get agendas across. We can't get policies in place. If you don't have leadership, nothing moves.
Wow.
Right? And crisis is the ideal circumstance for leadership, because it is in the chaos of ambiguity that leadership is needed. It's when everybody's on a cruise ship and there's smooth sailing and there are no complications, no one is interested in leadership. But as soon as there are rough waters and there's pandemonium and there's sirens going off on the ship, everybody wants to know who's leading. Everybody needs a leader then. Somebody who's calm, has a steady hand in a swerving vehicle, right? We look for leadership. So leaderships are needed, particularly in times like these. We live in a pandemic with so much uncertainty and all of that. So leaders are very critical in the lives of people, particularly in crisis.
So let's talk about a leader's past.
Yeah.
If you can just share your wisdom and insight, how do you feel that a leader's past can help or hinder them? Because we all have past issues that we've experienced, that we're struggling with.
Yeah.
So how can a person's past hinder them, and then how could it help them as well?
That's a great question. First of all, every leader has a past, right? And some of our history is positive, some of it's negative. So the way that shapes us, or the way that hinders or helps us, is, I would say, if you have past pain, past failures, past mistakes, how can those hinder or help you? Those mistakes and failures can be very helpful if that pain is turned into purpose through lessons. If I learn from it, I've earned from it. It has literally compensated me.
Wow.
If I learn from it. It has positioned me for growth. If I learn from it. It has become a way of paying me. Wow, that was priceless. That pain was priceless, right? It's sort of like in this world of sports. Great sports teams aren't just good on the field, they're good in the film room. So they have to watch film of previous performances to see where there was breakdowns, and they study their opponents. But looking back at film is a way of using the past to help me for the future. And I think every leader's got to look at the film of their failures and say, what was the pathology to these mistakes? Where did I go wrong? How did I mishandle this? And if it's a lesson, it's priceless. It can help me. Here's where that same failure that could pay me actually robs me. If I only look at the failure with shame, and I'm embarrassed, and I shouldn't have done that, and all I do is every time I talk about, is this, or I am victimized by it. It was them. Look at you, see how they treated me? That was cold what they did, right? If I'm a victim or if I'm ashamed, the same thing that could have compensated me has now robbed me. So now I have wasted pain. So you have to make sure that when you look at your past failures in particular, that you're learning from them. Now, the dichotomy in this is past success. We would think, okay, if I have success in my past, then that's got to help me. And so naturally, yeah, because that builds momentum, that gives you credibility and validity. Oh yeah, this person is like that. You see that work he did, you see that book he wrote, you see that thing he did. But the subtle truth about it is there's certain successes in our past that can hinder us. So when you're successful and your success leads to complacency, you stop creating, you stop innovating, you stop developing products and services and skills. Now, I've used my past, instead of using it as a platform to build on, I've used it as a deck to rest on. So I say, yeah, we did it, didn't we? We did it, didn't we? We still talking 20 years about what we did. And if you listen to certain organizational leaders or certain leaders in period, if you listen to their language, they always talk about what they did. Man, I remember we led the way. You remember 18 years ago we started that, right? They never talk about what they're doing now or what they're working on. So they're actually living in the past.
Wow.
And here's the thing I'll say this one last thing about your past. The reason why you have to take lessons from your past and learn from them is because even as you look at this book, one bad chapter doesn't make a bad book. Don't turn a bad chapter into a whole bad book. Like I'm stuck here or I'm just a terrible person. No, it's chapter 2. It's 15 more chapters, right? The same can be said, hey, we're so glad to see you. The same can be said about a person who had a great chapter. One great chapter doesn't give you the momentum to make a great book. Because then people say, man, all you need to do is read chapter 1, man. The book is garbage after that. So we have to be consistently improving on our past. And I think the past is a schoolmaster, a school teacher to teach us how to do now and how to do next. So that's how I see the past helping or hindering us.
Wow.
Exactly.
So can you share insight, because you talked about in terms of, your past success can be hindrance as well. But kind of speak a little bit more in that space in terms of, as a person, as an organization, where do you get to a point where you say, you know what, we're getting behind here. We need to make some change. And that can happen to us, personally as well, in our families, in our marriage.
Absolutely.
So kind of speak where, in terms of maybe on our marriages, our church, wherever, that we may be on that great list, but when we start trending off, like how can we stop the bleeding? You know what I mean?
I think being aware of atrophy is important. Being aware that we're no longer doing the things that made us great. So there's greatness has habits. There's certain disciplines that go into greatness in any genre, any business, any industry, right? So one, if I'm not doing the disciplines and the habits that bring about the results that I got, then I already know I'm on borrowed time. Because lack of discipline will catch up with us. The second thing is having external evaluations of people other than, I can't be the only person that's giving a synopsis of how I'm doing. Because in my mind, we still good, right?
Yeah.
So somebody else has got to make an observation and say, I think you need help here. I think you need to do this differently. Or if it's a marriage, I think your spouse should be able to say, I don't know if we're doing well. So those are important pieces to it, having an external observation and being aware that if I stop the disciplines, then I'm going to drift, right? But then the other thing is, I think we have to stop wishing things were the way they were. One of the things that gets people hindered by their past is hoping for the good old days to come back. That's just not how it works. A lot of things that change never go back to the way they were. They don't reset. They never resume. When 9/11 took place in 2001, it forever changed the way we traveled. You used to, if you had an 11 o'clock flight at an airport and you got to the airport at 10 o'clock, you were good. You got there at 10 o'clock, you go through check in in 15 minutes, and you sitting there getting on the plane. You get there at 10 o'clock for 11 o'clock flight now, you might as well just wait for the next flight.
Yeah, you could take 10 bags, check 10 bags in for free.
Yeah, you can have your deodorant, you can have your aerosol, your Jerry Curl spray in your carry-on bags. It's you got to take your shoes off. It's so much. It's forever changed the way we travel. And I think when people won't embrace change and say, how can I adjust to this new normal that I am in so that I can be good now? How can I be good now? How can we do great now? Because how we can do what we need to do to be great now may be different, because people grow, people evolve, situations evolve. Like how you can have a great marriage when you have a 2-year-old might be different on how you can have it when the child is 12. They need more attention when they're younger. They get involved in more things when they get older. So your time is split, and you have to find the rhythm of what this current season requires, and then say, how can we be good now? What do we need to do to be good now? I think that can keep people from just staying in a place of atrophy and maybe living at a level that they're accepting mediocrity. I know for me, and I don't want to go too far off this question, when COVID came, it changed the world, right? But so you got to change how we work out. We got to change how we educate people. We got to change how we do how we do church, how we provide services for people. And what I found is that the people who didn't do well are the people who basically have sat around and waited for things to go back to reset. But how do you reset in a pandemic? And how do you reset afterwards when the way people interact and communicate with each other may forever be changed? So we kind of laud in-person experience. Everything's in person. When can we do it in person, in person, in person? Well, I think at best everything will be ambidextrous from now on. So everything we offer in person has to be offered virtually, from weddings to business meetings, to services, to inaugurations. Everything's got to be ambidextrous now, because there's going to always be an online audience that is learning and participating and joining in and investing in everything we're doing. So I just think adjustments, that's a big word for leaders.
Wow.
Making adjustments.
Wow. Can you think of anyone in Scripture that had to do that, whether they learned from their past or they were stuck in their past or they made changes? Any any scriptural examples that you can think of,
Yeah.
the positive or negative?
Yeah, I think the person that a couple of people come to mind. One is Joseph. Joseph. The Bible says that God had favored him, right? He was favored of his father, and that favor led him into hatred from his brothers, jealousy, and then that led him into being put in a pit and being sold as a slave. But then he gets in jail, arrested after being promoted, falsely accused of rape, and then he's in jail, but he gets promoted in there. So there's some way in which wherever he was, he ascended.
Wow.
He took his skills into every situation he is. The anointing on a person's life doesn't adjust because of geography or circumstances. And I think it is important to understand, nor does the presence of God. Jehovah Shammah. He is ubiquitous, so there's no place he is not. So he says, if I make my bed in hell, you are there. David said that. If I ascend into heaven, thou art there. If I descend into hell, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost part of the sea, even there will you lead me, and your right hand shall uphold me. If I say to the darkness will cover me. The darkness and the light are the same. It can't get too dark for God. It can't get too deep for God. It can't get too high for God. It can't get too wide for God. So if I know that God is tethered to me in every circumstance and I'm still anointed, then adjustments are possible, whether I'm in Egypt, in a prison, in a palace, in a pit. The favor of God is going to be there. So I see it in Joseph's life. I also see it in Nehemiah's life, where he had to deal with criticism in his project. He had to deal with relationship building and resources, using favor where he could, ignoring haters, blocking out distractions, focusing his team. There were times when the team would get discouraged, and he says, well, we're going to have to build and fight, so put a shovel in one hand, a sword in the other. Like every phase of a leader's journey will require adjustments. And I think the constant is, God, you called me, you anointed me, you chose me, show me how to roll right now. Instead of saying, let it be like it was. This is too tiresome. No, show me how to shift. Because there is no shift that surprised God.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
For God to have been surprised by COVID-19, he would have had to be surprised by the flood. Right? He's the one that said the flood's coming. He only told one person though, right?
Wow.
The flood didn't surprise. That'd be like God being surprised by the singeing and destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. He knew it was going. He told them, get out.
Wow.
There's no way in the world God can be surprised. First of all, whatever happens has to happen in time, and he created time. So we have a God who's stable in every situation. So God, now that I know and I'm reminded that you knew this was coming, what's the move now? Because if I move with what was by his direction, I can move with what is, because he's the same God and he knew this was coming. And some of this transition, I think some of it came to just give us some rest. Because a lot of the stuff we were doing before the pandemic wasn't really sustainable. It was a lot of people going to tap out. I know I was. So I'm sorry if I ain't answering that.
I'm
just
awesome.
running my mouth.
No.
You get my age, you just say what you say.
But this is what we do. We having a conversation.
Absolutely.
But speaking about now, let's talk about the leaders present, because we sort of morphed into that. But one of the things that you've said that have been, to me personally, and I've heard you said it, on platforms as well, is turning obstacles into opportunities. And this was so key for me, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, because we keep running into so many obstacles. Can't find hand sanitizer, no wipes. But you keep saying, turn obstacles into opportunities. So can you share more about that, and especially in this season right now where it seemed like there's so many obstacles? How can we how can we see the opportunities or turn obstacles into opportunities?
Yeah, first of all, nobody's being picked on in this pandemic. It hit all of us. So everybody is impacted by it. So if other people are finding opportunities in the midst of the obstacles, then they must be out there. So one of the things is, I go back to what I said earlier, we have to embrace change.
Wait, let me pause. And pardon me if you're not ready to answer this. So you say if some people are finding opportunities, can you share? Are you
Absolutely.
Share
Absolutely.
who find opportunities?
First of all, if your company is spelled Amazon, if you are a service-based company like Uber Eats or Grubhub, and you have a deliverable service, now you put your staff in great peril throughout the pandemic because they're still out there working. But you're talking about opportunities through the roof. People don't want to go out and get the food anymore, but they're in the house stuck with the kids. They don't have time to cook. We can get it to them. Now you got opportunities out the roof. I mean, deliverable services in a pandemic when people are stuck in the house. There were in-home orders. There were times we were ordered to stay in-house. Those are opportunities for somebody who was seasoned. Well, I found out how to get out of here. I deliver stuff. Dry cleaning. Well, you didn't have to deliver dry cleaning when nobody was wearing clothes, right? But selling pajamas. Pajama pants and suit tops was the style. Shorts, gym shorts and dress shirts was the style, right? So I'm saying, don't stop at what I can't do. What can I do? I've seen boxers who injured their hand in a fight, but they kept fighting with the other hand. They just decoy with their hand. They fake with that hand. They throw the other one, right? You just do what you have to do, and that's, I always say this, adjust. Just adjust. I'm going to get a t-shirt called Just Adjust. Don't fuss, don't cuss, just adjust. That's it. Because the fussing and cussing and complaining is not going to change anything. Just adjust. You go into a restaurant, they don't have what you wanted. Well, what else is on the menu? Oh man, they ain't got that, I'm leaving. Well, maybe this is an opportunity to try something that you wouldn't have tried if what you wanted was still available. Then you experience something, man, I kind of like that. That was nice. We just adjust. Just adjust. That's it. Just adjust. We can't fly, we had to drive. You know what, while we were driving, we saw places we'd have never saw. We stopped places we would never stop. We had conversations in the car we couldn't have had because other people would have been on the plane. Just adjust. That would be my word for people who, the way you find opportunities and obstacles is just adjust.
And I was reading about, the life of Joseph, speaking about Joseph, and, when Joseph told Pharaoh, to save, 20% of your grain during the 7 years of abundance, so that when there's 7 years of famine, you will have grain to, for provision in the land, right? And so Scripture says that the 7 years of famine hit. And Pastor Battle, I don't know why I never saw this before, right? So the people went to Pharaoh, asking, man, we're hungry. Want something to eat? And Pharaoh said, go to Joseph, right? The Scripture says all of the lands had the famine. So the only land that had grain was Egypt. You know what Joseph started doing? Scripture said Joseph sold grain.
Absolutely.
To the land.
Absolutely.
So people came to Joseph. So talk about the opportunity that Egypt had, during the famine to, to, as you said, turn the obstacle into a financial opportunity.
And he was prepared for it too. A lot of opportunities we're not prepared for because we don't save. So he was saving 1/5 of the grain. That's 20% he was saving. And a lot of people miss out on opportunities because they don't have the capital to move on it. So there's an opportunity to purchase real estate, or opportunity to get involved in and be a partner in a business opportunity, and you love the business opportunity, but we weren't saving money, so we don't have the capital to move on the opportunity. So his saving put him in position to not only preserve through lean times, but also to prosper in lean times because he was the only man that had grain. So that's not only seeing an opportunity and seizing it, it's also preparing for it in a season where it looked like you didn't need to be prepared.
Wow.
Because a lot of people were eating up in the feast, the 7 years of feast, people were just consuming and not storing. And that's a principle too.
Yeah.
You know, always pay yourself, always set aside resources for opportunities to come. If I miss out on an opportunity that comes before me, preparation and opportunity are family members.
Wow.
So opportunity is like, it rolls like this. Like they just come by all the time, right? That was an opportunity, that was an opportunity, that was an opportunity. And many of them go right past us, go over our heads. It's only when my preparation is up here that I even see it. Now I can make it, and some of that preparation is finances, right? So Joseph had all this stored up. So when the opportunity came that the whole world needed food, he was the man that had to go. He was the only grocery store open. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
But he also had foresight from God to tell him how to handle what was coming. He used his gift. His gift was to interpret dreams. So his gift made room for him and put him before great men, right?
Yeah.
And he was using his gift. He didn't wait until he got to a big platform to use his gift. He was using his gift in jail. A lot of people want to wait till you let them preach on Sunday to use their gift. Use it in children's church. They need a word at the detention center. They need your gift at the nursing home. But using his gift in jail, the word got to the bigger platform. Somebody in jail has a gift that you need up here. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If he had never used his gift in an obscure place, he wouldn't have got to use it in a place of notoriety. That's a word for somebody.
Wow. So I want you to also speak to this tension, right? Because you know, the imagination, right? So you imagine Joseph selling grain, right?
Yeah.
There's a famine, and sometimes we may struggle with this as well. It's like, man, you gonna be charging me, man, a time like this, man. You know, because sometimes we wrestle with that, you know, especially when God's give us success, because you always have those people like, so you charging now, huh?
Absolutely.
So now you charging me, man. Like you changing up on me.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we shrink back because we don't want. Cause we still want to be cool, you know. We still want to be fam. Like, nah, man, yeah, just give me $5. You know what it is? You know what I mean? But that's not, as you know, that's not wise business. So talk about in terms of, you know, how do you make that transition? Maybe how you even done that.
Yeah.
In your person, because you probably had to do that too.
Absolutely.
Because you can't give away everything.
Here's the thing. Anybody that's in demand has built something, whether it's a business, a ministry, a brand, or something that is successful, right? You wouldn't be in demand if you weren't successful. Whatever it is. It could be an artist, a fashion designer, a doctor, whatever. You've built something that people want your time. Well, that's the key. When people invite you to do something, what they're asking for without asking for it is your time. That's what's most precious to me. So somebody says, I want you to come do something for me. I want you to come speak for me. Well, it's not just the time I'm going to use speaking for them. It is the time that I'm going to be away from what I'm building that made you want me to come. Because I can't do that and serve you, right? Then it's the time that I got to prepare that I would have given towards preparing for what I'm typically doing. So all of that has cost ramifications, right? And you have to, I first learned this, one of the places I learned this from a guy named Ray Washburn. And when I was trying to calculate what my speaking fee would be, I only calculated what it would take me to be on platforms while I was there. He says, no, in my world, the clock starts when you pull out of your driveway. As soon as you leave your family, the clock. He says, when I'm riding to the airport, y'all got to pay me for that. When I'm sitting in the terminal waiting on the plane, you got to pay me for that. When I get up in the air in the plane, all that's on y'all. It's not just paying for my flight, it's paying for my time. If somebody like him, it could be $1,000 an hour. So you pay, the bill starts when I leave my house till I get back to my driveway.
Wow.
You see, I've calculated all that. It ain't, see, we just say, oh, it costs you $5,000, $20,000 for me to speak at your conference. Well, what went into that? When did the ticker start? Because as long as I'm away from my assignment and I'm serving you, you got to pay me what I'm losing from being away from that, right? Because everything I'm building is going to go down while I'm away from it to some degree, because they won't have access to me. That's how that world works. And what I had to understand is that a lot of people that I wanted, I couldn't afford. We tried to get Magic Johnson to do Father's Day one year. I was excited. He told me what it would cost for the jet fuel just to get him there was like $50,000. I was like, well, maybe we can Zoom you in, right? You know what I'm saying? And what I wasn't even mad at him. I was just saying, I'm ambitious. And it's not that he's expensive. It's just that I can't afford him.
Wow.
He ain't expensive. I just can't afford him.
Wow.
He said, that's the difference. That's all right. I can't afford. One day I will be able to. Our organization will be able to. He ain't expensive. That's what it costs for him. That's what he's worth. You're paying for people's time. That's what you're doing, and what it takes them, and the value they add to your brand. Certain people come to your brand, your attendance goes up, your giving goes up, your credibility goes up. There's a benefit to the person too. So it's all of that goes into determining me leaving somewhere to serve somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
One more question as it pertains to leaders present.
Yeah.
How can we be more effective with the time that we have now? Like our day-to-day time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we waste time without realizing it.
Yeah. Time management.
Yeah.
See, the thing about time is it's a perishable commodity. It's a perishing commodity, continually perishing. We will never have this time again. It will never be this day again. We'll never have this moment ever again. If I got a $20 bill in my pocket and I spend it today, it may not be the same 20, but I can get another 20 back. I will never get this time back. I gave it to you. I will never get it back. I can't give it to my granddaughter. I can't give it to any of my children. I can't give it to my wife. I can't give it to my children. It's yours. It's precious. It evaporates. And we're running out of it every day, right? So the way I say leaders must focus on their time is, first of all, I like taking a look at my schedule annually. And what you want to do is set your breaks up annually. So you set your breaks up, your vacations, your sabbatical, your rest or whatever. You want to do that based on your rhythm of your organization and your personal work rhythm. Like I know that every quarter I need to take some time off. I've learned my rhythm. I know my organization. I know when we ramp up real hard at like Easter, Christmas, certain times, anniversary. So I know, right, or when I'm doing evaluations for my staff, I know right after that I need a break. The reason why you should do it that way is because if you wait until you're tired to plan a vacation, you'll be too exhausted to enjoy it. And if you plan it ahead of time, pacing yourself, the people that work with you won't have to experience you in burnout. Because the burnout version of the leader is not a nice guy or a nice gal.
Wow.
They're impatient, they're indifferent, and they're not as effective.
Wow.
The second thing I would say to do is focus annually is to have more of a big picture look at your big rocks that are coming up in the weeks and months. I got a speaking engagement here. I got to prepare for this series. I got a presentation, a proposal I'm writing. I got a business plan I need to put together. So if these are coming up, what you want to do is look, okay, here's the date when this deliverable is due. What do I need to do over the next 2 months to build in time so I'm not up against it and pressured and behind the 8 ball at the last minute to do it. So you start, and I keep percentage of how complete I am on a project. I may have a project that's months away. I know how much percentage of it has been completed. I keep a tally. I'm about 16% complete on this. I'm 86% complete on this. So, so I don't want to wait until the day of and be at 0% and try to cram on it, right? And then the last thing I would say, well, the third thing I would say about time management, is I learned this from Steve Harvey, and that is on a daily basis, keep track of every minute in your day. So I plan out every minute of my day. So I know when I wake up, I know when I have my devotions, I know when I work out, I know when I cook, I know when I'm supposed to eat, I know when I'm supposed to return emails and phone calls and texts, I know when my study time, I know when I just have downtime when I'm reading or playing a game online, a card game or something. I build to my life every minute of the day. So I knew my drive time here. I know my drive time home. I know what I'm supposed to do when I get home. I try not to have my day happen to me. Because if you let it happen to you, you lose a lot of time. Can I add one more thing to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a guy named Benjamin Hardy who wrote a book called Willpower Doesn't Exist, or Willpower Doesn't Work, it may be called. His name is Benjamin Hardy. And he talks about 5 G's. And he says you start with a grand vision. And the grand vision should be, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? And he says 10 instead of 1, because if you say, where do I want to be next year, there's limitations on that. Well, I can't, there's only so much I can do. But in 10 years, it's almost nothing you can't do in 10 years. So you set the grand vision where I'm trying to go, right? Then the second G is your goals. So those are annual. And sometimes I do them in 90-day increments. But those 90-day goals or annual goals should be in alignment with the grand vision. So the goals push me towards the vision, right? In alignment. Then the third level is a game plan, and that should be daily. So my daily game plan should be aligned to my goals, which are aligned to the grand vision. That's alignment. So I'm not doing things during the day that don't move me towards my goal. So if a goal is, a grand vision in 10 years is to be at this place physically, in my physical health, then my goals annually or 90 days should be in this way. So what I do daily in my eating and exercise should be aligned with that. Where I'm trying to ultimately be 10 years, where I'm trying to be in the next year, etc. And then you need, the fourth G is you need guidance. Every Neo needs a Morpheus, right? Every grasshopper needs a Mr. Miyagi. There needs to be somebody who's already arrived at where we're trying to go, whether we have personal relationship with them or not. We follow their blogs, we follow them on YouTube, we follow them on social media, we read their books, because we need guidance to get us to where we're trying to get. And then the fifth G is get to it. Never let one my guy who wrote the book Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod says, never let a bad day become 2. And what he's saying is, if you get off track one day, get on track the next one. That's it. You get to it. So I got to get to my daily game plan with guidance I'm supposed to have, which moves me towards my goal, which moves me to a grand vision. That's all about managing a time that's such a precious and evaporating commodity.
You know, and at our church, you know, we have a lot of young adults, you know, millennials, and you know, one of the areas of tension that people often say, well, I'm not able to find a mentor. You know, can you speak to how we can be mentored? Because sometimes when we think of mentor, we think of a person that's willing to sit down with us once a week for 2 hours. So speak about that.
I can have coffee with Bishop Jakes every single day. If I drink coffee, because I got his books, I got his videos, I got his blog. Most people we want to be mentored by have content. Watch their content. My best stuff is in my content. You can talk to me about leadership, we have a great conversation. My best leadership stuff is in a book, because I wrote it, I rewrote it, I edited it. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have to adjust the way we see mentoring. So if the obstacle is I can't get access to the person, then the opportunity is I can get access to their content. What really matters is the content more than the conversation. If I can't get the conversation, I want to get to the content. Sometimes you can get access to somebody who is being mentored by somebody you want to mentor. So I can have access to somebody in somebody's organization. So say somebody in ministry wants to connect with Stephen Furtick. That might not be easy to get done, but you might be able to connect with one of his campus pastors who talks to him all the time, and he can tell you the best things he's learned from him. right? So I'm still getting access to the information that I need to grow. And I think most people who we want to learn from has information that they put out there that we can glean from, and it's free. A lot of it is free, but most of it is affordable. So you don't have to go to a even though somebody may be able to afford to spend. Somebody may say, "Well, I'm willing to spend $10,000 to go spend a weekend with Tony Robbins because I just want to be in the room." Well, great if you can do that. But if you don't have $10,000 to spend a weekend with him in a pandemic, then the question now is, do you have the time to spend time watching his YouTubes?
Yeah.
Or reading books?
Yeah.
And I'm saying you do have time for that.
Yeah.
You gotta have time for it. Yeah. Any leader, see, learning is so important to the leadership space. And wanting a mentor is a good sign. It's a good sign because it's a confession of ignorance.
Wow.
But it's also a hunger for information.
Wow.
So I like having people to say, I want to be mentored. That means I don't have it. I need more tools.
Wow. But let's talk about a leader's future.
Yeah.
So you talked about vision. What's the importance of having a vision? Vision for a life, vision for organization, vision for family, just a vision in general. Yeah.
Especially now, vision is so paramount because many visions have been disturbed by this crisis we're in. Because it's hard to see beyond the cloud. They call it in some sectors VUCA. So VUCA is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, right? If that doesn't describe COVID-19, I don't know what it is. It's volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, it's ambiguous, right? So I was reading somewhere where we need a VUCA as leaders to match every part of that VUCA. So our VUCA is vision, understanding, clarity, and agility, or agility or adaptability, right? And it coincides with VUCA. So where there's volatility, we need vision. Some people don't see how vision can fit in volatility. Well, vision is necessary for volatility because people still, you can look at circumstances like a vision is by definition, best to define. Vision by definition is God's ability or our ability, graced by God, to see a solution to a problem, right? So it is problem oriented, but it's solution oriented more so. And so the vision is, this is what we can do about this. This is how we can change this. This is how we can make a difference, right? And that core level of the vision shouldn't change, even though the strategy might have to change because of the volatility. So we're still going to try to reach people, and we're still going to try to change lives, and we're still going to try to get clients, and we're still going to try to get customers. But in a pandemic, we have to change the strategy, but the vision's still the same. Then we need understanding where there's uncertainty. So how do you get understanding where there's uncertainty? You got to do research. So we have to be students of the problem. We have to know about this variant that's coming along now. We have to know about all of these things we have to know what the science is saying and what the suspicion is saying and be able to marry those things. So where there's uncertainty, we have to do research and do understanding. It was Mark Batterson who says, he talks about the law of ecology, and he says, in the law of ecology, the most important law is that learning is greater than change. Learning must be greater than change. Because in order for anything to survive, its learning must outperform or outpace the change. So in a world of change, leaders must be learning at a pace that is equal to or greater than the change, otherwise the change will suffocate us. So I must have understanding where there's uncertainty. Then where there's complexity, I need clarity. So what we have to do is continue to give clarity. This is all connected to vision. How we give clarity to people where there's uncertainty. So why are we stopping services? Well, we're stopping services because we want to keep people safe. And what are we doing next? Well, until we have further notice, we're going to suspend our services until it's safe. And then we'll reopen. So clarity of communication. What does this mean for us? Always bringing clarity to based on our understanding and based on the vision we have, we bring clarity where there's confusion or complexity. And then agility means we're always willing to be agile. So this becomes content for Sundays. And we ain't got nobody talking to us. We talking to each other. We wouldn't do this if it wasn't a pandemic, right? It's called being agile. By the way, people are as engaged in this as if one of us was standing up giving a sermon, right? Because content with agility, given the circumstances, can still be effective. So vision is very important during this time. And if I were to unpack vision just a little bit more, I think vision has a fourfold concept to it. And I get it from the book of Habakkuk, right? In Habakkuk chapter 1, Habakkuk sees something. It's the oracle that he saw, the revelation that he saw, the burden that he saw, and it was the desolation of Judah, right? And it put him in a place of grief. So it always starts with some problem, some burden, some difficulty. So that's where vision starts, because God wants to burden the leader, so the leader wants to do something about it. Get you upset about something, got to do something about this. It's not enough of this in the world. It's not enough of this. We don't have good schools. We don't have good restaurants. We don't have healthy food, blah, blah, whatever it is. We don't have good churches. Let me do something about it. Then it comes from a place of what I would call contemplation. Because God says it wasn't until he sat in his tower and he watched to see what God would say. God gives you vision in the tower. Yeah. That's where it comes. It comes in the tower.
Wow.
He didn't get the vision. He didn't get the vision in chapter 1 when he was just crying and hurt over Judah. And this is terrible. He got the vision in the tower. Yeah, you like that, right?
The praise break right there.
Yeah, you get the vision in the tower. You have to be still enough. It's usually some quiet time, devotion, retreat. It's a moment of contemplation. When he drops it in you, you have to have a pen. You have to have something to write, because that's phase 3. It always needs to be recorded. And you're not just recording it so you'll remember it, because you'll never forget it. You're recording it because it's always going to require a team to execute it. You write it for the people who run with it. You see that? So it starts with a problem. You get the vision in a tower. You must record it, because it's always going to take a team. Then the next phase of it, he says in verse 3 of chapter 2, though it tarries, wait for it. It's for an appointed time. Here's the tricky thing about vision. You see it grown, you deliver it infant. It never comes out like you saw it. It got birth on it. It got the umbilical cord on it. It's got afterbirth on it. You got to put it in an incubator. Sometimes it come out too soon. It's like, this ain't what I saw. The waiting period is for the manifestation of the whole thing. That's why you have to remember what you saw, so that what you see doesn't discourage you. I need that to sink for a second. Okay, let me get off of that. I want to get to the fourth. Then the next phase of it is in verse 4. He says, it's interesting that in verse 4 of Habakkuk chapter 2, he says, then the just shall live by his faith. We talking about a crisis. We talking about, I'm in the tower, I get a vision, I write it down, the people run with it, I got to wait for it. Then he said, the just shall live by his faith. One thing about vision is that it always manifests within the environment of a faith life. See, we think we just need faith for the vision. You have to have faith saturating your whole life for the vision. It's an environment of faith. It says the person is living by faith. You don't get to live by facts your whole life and then you jump over into faith over on the vision side. My whole life is a walk of faith.
Wow.
I have faith that he's going to heal my child. I have faith that he's going to work in this. I don't just have faith for the assignment. I have faith. The just shall live by faith. Because I'm going to need a life of faith to keep people encouraged that aren't seeing what I saw. That's vision. I'll just put a pin right there. That's vision.
Wow.